Hi, it's Lucy, and today I'm going to be tier ranking Time Magazine's 100 best YA books of all time. So if you didn't know, last year Time released their 100 best fantasy books of all time, and I did a tier ranking for that, linked in the cards and down below. That list was much more controversial amongst the bookist internet. I haven't heard as many whisperings about it at the time I'm filming this. Maybe other people are just late with their videos also, I don't know. But yeah, so this one does seem to be less controversial. I don't really have too many qualms with it, really. I think there's less of the issues that I noticed with the other list. And also, this is not their first list for the best YA books ever. They apparently had another list that they did in 2015, which I kind of wish I could tier rank now, because I'm pretty sure I read more of those books that were originally on the list, but I digress. I have read, I think, a fair amount of these. I guess we'll see as we rank them. This list has like way less repeat authors, which was a bigger problem for me with the other list, and I think a problem other people had. And I think it did do a good job of rounding out well-known books along with some lesser-known books that probably are still good quality, and this is supposed to be the best books of all time. There are judges that I've heard of that are well-known within the YA community. The only slight issues I might have that I saw someone else point out, I believe it was Allie from Allie with Books, I saw them tweet about this, how some of the books seem to be more middle grade than YA, and I tried to read Time's like methodology while doing this, and they don't really say anything about that. But since this whole point of this list is to be updated, you would think that they would go with our common understanding of YA. And some of these books I definitely have heard as being classified as middle grade, more so like you're more likely to read it in middle school or even like late elementary school, like 5th grade. That would be for me. So we'll see. But without further ado, let's talk about the tiers that I did and then rank the books. So the tiers that we have are pretty similar to the ones I did last time. So I have agree, where I agree with this book being on this list. I agree that it's one of the 100 best books of all time, or YA books, I should say. I get it. Maybe I don't personally agree, but I get why other people would have it on the list. Disagree, obvious, I disagree. And middle grade, where, like I said, some of these books seem like they shouldn't be on this list because they don't fit in this category. And then I didn't read it. Some of these books I will rank, even though I haven't read it, just because I feel like I know enough about them. But if I feel like I don't know enough about it and I haven't read it, I'm not going to rank it. So yes, that's it. First, we have The Fault in Our Stars. Where does it go? I need to sneeze. I'm going to put it in agree. The Fault in Our Stars is the first book I read by John Green, and I maintain that it's his best book. It's the only book that I really truly enjoyed by him, but it definitely ushered in an era of the types of books that started coming out after this. It had a whole movie that made lots of kids cry. I do think this is John Green at his best. John Green is a prolific YA writer, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I agree, basically. American-Born Chinese, I get it. I personally did not enjoy that book that much, but I can see why it's on this list. It's a YA graphic novel about specifically a Chinese American, like first generation immigrant. It's like 2 stories in one, because it also tells like a Chinese parable at the same time to explore more of the other story. It brought that kind of story to a wider audience. I'm pretty sure is taught in schools now, so I totally get it. Codename Verity, I didn't read it. Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe. I also agree. I loved that book when I read it. I totally subscribe to the hype. So this is like one of the first stories that was more widely recognized, that was about, gay teenagers. So I think it does deserve credit for that. And I also do think it's a beautifully written story and one of the best stories to be written. Homecoming, I have not read that. Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, I'm between I get it and I disagree. I really enjoyed this when I read it, but looking back, I think I more enjoyed it because it was very popular. There were some elements that I do not think I would enjoy right now at my age, knowing what I know. It's a funny story. I don't really believe it was written in any special kind of way. I don't remember if there were any topics. Like, obviously it deals with someone dying from cancer. So I'm just gonna go with disagree. Every Day by David Levithan. I get it, but I don't agree, because David Levithan, should probably be on this list. But a little known fact about me, especially on this booktube channel, because I started this booktube channel towards the tail end of me trying to read a lot of specific authors. David Levithan was one of those authors. I've read like 7 or 8 of his books. I don't know why. At the time I gave them 4 stars because when I was reading in high school, I gave almost every book 4 stars. But if I read them now, probably most of them would have gotten 3, maybe 3.5 stars, because I remember my feelings of them. I always had issues with his writing. He writes in a real raw way, if that makes sense, that didn't always work for me. And there were just always some elements about his stories that irked me. So my thought process when seeing that they chose Every Day by David Levithan, I was like, that can't be his best book. But looking back at what I have read from him, like there are a couple of books that I haven't read. It is his best book. So I am going with I Get It, because like I said, David Levithan is a prolific writer and another writer that I believe is well known for talking about specifically 18. Obviously his books are very popular, so lots of people think they're written well, and I did at the time. I don't think they're written badly. There are just things about his writing that irked me at the time. So I get it, but I would not put it on my own list. A Wizard of Earthsea, I haven't read it. This was also on the fantasy list, I'm pretty sure. The House on Mango Street, I thought this was an adult book, but I haven't read it either. So True Girls in Brooklyn, I haven't read it. To All the Boys I've Loved Before, I agree. I love the whole series. It's just the first book, which, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this list does it way better. But yes, I love To All the Boys I've Loved Before. And once again, I feel like it brought a revolution. It's just, I feel like Jenny Han has just such a readable writing style that makes it so accessible for teens. And her characters, for me, are so relatable. I know a lot of people find them annoying, which I guess means I'm annoying because I literally find them pretty relatable to me. Yes, I really, really love that story. How I Live Now, I haven't read that. Feed by M.T. Anderson, I get it. This is actually the first dystopian story that I read, I'm pretty sure. I thought it was The Hunger Games, but looking back, I guess I'd have to check Goodreads, but I might have read this before I had Goodreads, which means that it would definitely be the first dystopian story I read. I feel like I would have to reread it to state that I agree, because I read it so long ago and I haven't reread it since. But I totally get it because it just brings in so many new ideas, in my opinion. If You Could Be Mine, I haven't read it. March Book 1, I get it. I haven't read it, so I can't say I fully agree, but I totally get it. This is John Lewis's story of him being part of the civil rights movement, and it gives a first-hand account in this nice, accessible way. Not nice because obviously it's dealing with some harrowing topics, but in an accessible way for teens to know what the heck was happening. I can't read the title on this one, but I believe it's called Code Talkers, and I haven't read it. Before We Were Free, I haven't read it. Okay, maybe I read fewer of these than I thought. Noggin, I haven't read it. Crossover, I haven't read it. Dumplin, I haven't read it. Everything. Disagree. I really enjoyed that story, but I don't think it's the best story. I just don't think it's the best. That's it. Nicolene's writing, I enjoyed everything. Other people have talked about elements of the story that are problematic, such as, I don't want to say them here because they would be a spoiler, but even without that in my head, I enjoyed it. It was a fun read, but I don't think it was the best. This, on the other hand, The Book Thief, I agree, maybe changed my life. This was the first book that I read ever that made me cry, and like not just tears flowing out of my eye, like sitting at the dining room table bawling. Literally, I mention this every time I talk about it because it was so momentous for me. I never cried before. I was just like bawling. It was written so well. It was written in such a unique way. It had such a unique idea. Everything about it was really good. So I agree, one of the best YA books ever. More Happy Than Not, I haven't read it, but I get it. Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, another one that I get it. I have read this. I enjoyed it when I read it, but for me, it would not be on my top 100 list. I think maybe it would be, I don't know. Maybe one day I'll make my own top 100 list. Both More Happy Than Not and Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, I can see their like cultural importance of once again being about gay teens. And for Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, I can say, because I have read it, that it's written in a way that's very accessible for teens, and I can understand why lots of people would want kids to read this, teens to read this. I'll Give You the Sun. I'm between agree and I'll get it. I love this story when I read it, but is it one of the best 100 books of all time? I don't know. I get it. I enjoyed it. No, I'm gonna go with agree, I guess. I enjoyed it. I thought the writing style was really unique, and for parts of the story, it has a more flowery writing style, and I enjoy that a lot. So for me, the writing is very good. The overall plot and everything I thought was very interesting, and I would want lots of teens to read it, basically. Brown Girl Dreaming, I get it. I have read this. I think I had too high expectations when I went into it because I didn't love it as much as I thought I would, but I get why it's on this list. There's 3 awards on that cover right now. So Little Women could be middle grade because I read this in like 7th grade. So I don't know if that's really YA, but I love Little Women. I looked it up, and Penguin Random House, they classify it as both middle grade and YA, so I don't know. But I agree. I still would classify it as middle grade, so I don't fully agree, but I do agree it's a phenomenal book. It introduced me to classics in a way because I remember reading this and being convinced I would be so bored while reading it, and I was completely enthralled. So I love that for it. I love that for other teens, young people reading this. So I get it. Stargirl, this is definitely middle grade. I will not be taking any questions. I did enjoy that when I read it, but I definitely read that in 7th grade. March Volume 2, this is, I get it, but I haven't read it. I just think that these lists should only have 1 book per series, in my opinion, or they could have done the whole trilogy as one thing if they wanted to. I don't really understand why they separate them out like this. Do they think the 3rd book is so horrible? Like, I don't understand it. And it would give room for other authors to be on this list. Long Way Down, I once again get it. Once again, is a very popular book. I think it has 4 medals on that cover right now. So yeah, it deals with a really hard subject and introduces it to a much wider audience, and it does it in a very, I guess, engaging way. Six of Crows, I want to agree, but I'm going to put in I get it because if you've been on my channel, you know why. Because I love Crooked Kingdom more, and I just did that whole speech about how there should only be 1 book per series, and they did that for this list. But if they were going to do 1 book per series, it should have been Crooked Kingdom. I'm just saying, I think it's better than Six of Crows. Really, I would have preferred the duology together to be on this list. It is one of my favorite duologies ever, series, whatever. But yeah, Six of Crows specifically, I get it, but I don't agree because it should be Crooked Kingdom. We Are the Ants, I haven't read it. Ella Enchanted, I'm also pretty sure this is middle grade. I'm pretty sure I read that in like 6th grade. So yeah, middle grade. I enjoyed it when I read it though. Dear Martin, I'm gonna put in I get it. I personally did not really enjoy that story. I've since discovered that Nick Stone is really not an author for me, but I can see why it's on this list. Lots of other people really liked it. It is pretty short and compact, deals with a big topic, and once again puts it in a mainstream light so that people who might not be aware of what's going on, specifically in this case with basically racism. So I understand why it's on this list, but I didn't think it was an amazing read or written in a way that I would prefer, basically. Salt to the Sea, I haven't read. To Kill a Mockingbird, I'm between I get it and I disagree, because when I read it when I was younger, also, is this middle grade? I also read this in 8th grade. Sorry, but yes, when I read it, I enjoyed it. Now looking back, now that I'm an older person, I can see how this kind of highlights the kind of voices we boost about certain topics and everything. But I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with I get it because I believe the actual story and everything about the story was good. And once again, I think a lot of these end up highlighting topics that people weren't talking about at the time that they were, not that no one was talking about it, but brought them to a wider audience. A Hero Ain't Nothing But a Sandwich, I haven't read that. Hunger Games, The Hunger Games, I should say. We know where it's going. Agree. I love The Hunger Games. Is it my favorite book in the series? I'm of the unpopular opinion. I like Mockingjay more than Catching Fire, but I don't know if I like The Hunger Games more than Mockingjay. Reverse that. I don't know if I like Mockingjay more than The Hunger Games. I think I'm gonna go with The Hunger Games. Is the best book in the series. That could change at any moment, but I will agree because this really brought YA dystopian to the forefront. We have so many copycat stories after this, or not copycat stories, but you know, publishing started being like, okay, everyone give me your dystopian, we're going, come on, everybody. We have An Ember in the Ashes, which I haven't read. I'm not gonna comment on it. The Lightning Thief, I also haven't read, but I get it. But actually, I'm gonna put this in middle grade because I'm pretty sure this is middle grade. When the Moon Was Ours, I agree. This is a beautifully written story. I think Anna Marie McLemore, based on my one book that I've read of theirs and a bunch of their short stories, I think they're one of the best writers that I've read from. So based on that alone, I would agree. In addition to that, I think what the story deals with puts it over the top. We Are Okay. Once again, I also enjoyed that. And I also think that story was very well written. And I loved how it dealt with grief in such a raw way. And I think that's a really important story to be told in YA. So I love that. When Dimple Met Rishi, I haven't read that. The Sun Is Also a Star. Do I agree or do I get it? I agree. I think this took the writing from Everything and elevated it, and then also, I guess, chose a better topic and better way of storytelling, in my opinion. I thought it was a more creative way that I really enjoyed. And yeah, I just enjoyed everything about the story. I think lots of other people enjoy it, so best. Scythe, I haven't read. I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter, I also haven't read. Allegedly, I kind of disagree. I enjoyed that story so much, but I didn't think anything about it. Maybe I get it. I guess I get it because it makes you think a lot, and I love that for the story, but I don't know. I'm waffling on it. I'm gonna leave it and I get it. American Street by Ibi Zoboi. Disagree. Agree. I'm gonna go with disagree because I did enjoy the story and I really like that it's, you know, about Haitian Americans. It's about a girl who comes from Haiti and she ends up having to stay with her family because her mom gets stopped while they're entering the country, basically. And it's about that. And this also has like fabulous magical realism elements that I was a fan of, but the actual construction of the story I wasn't a fan of, especially how it ended. I feel like if there were aspects of the story that I didn't enjoy, that I feel like it can't be the best to me. Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. I'm pretty sure that is also middle grade. I think I read that in either 5th or 6th grade. So there's that. The Hate You Give, I agree, no comment. You know what The Hate You Give is. Graceling, I get it. I don't know. Is this the best story ever? I enjoyed it a lot when I read it. I guess it felt like a breath of fresh air to me, but I don't know if it's the best story ever. Like, it was good. I'm gonna go with disagree because I don't know. I didn't feel like it was the best story ever. Like, I'm just not sure I would have placed it on this list. The 57 Bus, I haven't read. The Poet X, I get it. The Marrow Thieves, I haven't read it. Children of Blood and Bone, I agree. I love that book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It's one of my favorite series beginnings of all time. I will be taking no questions. The Astonishing Color of After, I feel like a lot of these have that like whimsical, magical feel that I enjoy. Maybe not a lot. I don't know. But I totally get it. I really enjoyed that story. I wouldn't put it on my own personal best list. Elsewhere, this one's kind of weird because I'm pretty sure I read this. Like, I had it listed on Goodreads, I'm pretty sure, as I read it, but I have no recollection. Literally none. So I kind of want to say disagree because it was so forgettable to me. But I used to really enjoy Gabrielle Zevin as an author. I mean, I think she has really good books, so I disagree. If You Come Softly, I haven't read. The Giver, do I agree? I get it. Once again, another dystopian story that is actually older than the Hunger Games, I'm pretty sure. But I mean, it didn't start the phenomenon, I guess. Is this middle grade? Now that I'm thinking about it. Okay, so I do think it's middle grade, but if it wasn't middle grade, then I would agree. Darius the Great is not okay. I haven't read it. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I'm pretty sure it's middle grade, and if it's not, I'm declaring it middle grade. Forever, I'm also pretty sure this is middle grade. Pet, I get it. Do I agree? I agree, actually. This is just such an interesting way to tell a story that I just commend it for that. Like, I think it just brought something new to the table and did it well. So I enjoyed that a lot. Holes, I get it. I actually haven't read Holes, but I did watch the movie multiple times. It was always on Disney Channel. A Very Large Expansive Sea, I haven't read. With the Fire on High, I get it. The Princess Diaries, I also get it. I read like the first 6 books in that series. Speak, I agree. Once again, it brings a topic that was not as spoken about to the mainstream, and I think it did it in a really well done way. I almost want to label this as middle grade, but I'm pretty sure it is technically like young YA, although I did read it in 8th grade. And my 8th grade teacher was obsessed with Lori Halse Anderson, so I've read a lot of her books, actually. The Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. This is definitely middle grade. I read this in the summer before 5th grade. I remember it that specifically because this was one of the books that I took to Haiti with me when I went on a trip with my dad to Haiti, and I was there for like 6 weeks, and for some reason only brought 4 books, which was not smart on anyone's part. I don't know what my family was thinking, but anyway, so I had a lot of time to reread books because I only brought 4, and I was even more of a prolific reader than I am now when I was that young. So I read this book so many times. I'm pretty sure my parents' house has a copy that is missing like half the book because it fell out because I read it so many times. I don't think I was really that advanced in my reading age when I read it. So, or like my reading level. So I'm pretty sure this is middle grade. I loved it though, like no shade. Also no shade to any of the books that I listed as middle grade. I just feel like they don't belong on this list because it's not the right age group. But Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, I love that. My kids will read it. I will read it again someday. Frankly in Love, I never read it. Like a Love Story, I never read it. Angus Thongs and Full Frontal Snogging. I can speak. Never read it. Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me, I haven't read. The Black Flamingo, I haven't read. Tyrell, I haven't read, although the cover does look interesting. Monster, I haven't read, although I kind of get it because I've heard a lot about it. So I'm going to put I get it. The Henna Wars, I haven't read. Wheatsea Bat, I also haven't read. The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, I also haven't read that, but I think I get it. Okay, the title was cut off of this book, but I don't recognize that cover, so I'm going to go with I haven't read it. The Diary of Anne Frank, I haven't read it. Also, it was never assigned to me in school, but I totally get it, obviously. We Are Not Free, I haven't read that. You Should See Me in a Crown, I haven't read it. The Catcher in the Rye, I disagree because I hate the freaking Catcher in the Rye. That was a lot, I'm sorry, but I hate it. So, Felix, Ever After, I haven't read it. Stamped, I haven't read it, but I do get it. I'll put it in I get it. Firekeepers Daughter is the most recent book on this list. I have to move it around, but I agree. I love this book. I talk about it a little in my mid-year book freakout tag, and eventually there will be a wrap up with it, maybe. Shipbreaker, I haven't read it. A Caught a Witch, I also haven't read it. What is this? Lord of the Flies? I disagree. I don't agree. That's how it works. A Swiftly Tilting Planet, I also thought this was middle grade, and I don't understand these things. It is the 3rd book in a series. Maybe they really do think it's the best one of the series. I don't know. I haven't read it. I only read the first one, which I didn't enjoy that much without the nostalgia lens. But yeah, I'm just gonna leave it in middle grade because I haven't read it, and I'm pretty sure it's middle grade. Something. Anne of Green Gables, I get it. It's a fun read, and it has stood the test of time. Daughter of Smoke and Bone, I just disagree. I don't know. I thought it was good, but not one of the best books of all time. I don't know. Tuck Everlasting, I also disagree. I didn't like it that much when I read it. I'm also pretty sure that is middle grade, but I will be leaving it and disagree. The Westing Game, I haven't read it. I feel like is it a TV show? Is the book called Sharon Draper? I don't think so, but I haven't read it regardless. Legend, I disagree. I don't know. I thought it was good, but one of the best books of all time? I don't think so. I don't know. The title was completely cut off this cover, so I have no idea what it is, but I also haven't read it. And finally, Persepolis. I think this was the first volume that this cover represents, but I agree, but also I think it should just be both volumes put together. I thought it was only cut up for time, honestly, but whatever. I read them together. They fit really well together, volumes 1 and 2, so this should just be both of them combined, unless that is what it's meant to represent. But yeah, once again, I think because it's YA and like it does it in a graphic novel medium, it just makes it so much better, more accessible, and I really like that. So this is my tier ranking of Time Magazine's 100 best YA books of all time. Of all of these, I have read, I didn't count, I'm not gonna count, at least half, right? Close to half, okay? Let's go with it. But yeah, if you have any opinions about any of the books that were talked about in this video that are on this list, how I ranked them, leave them down below, or a book that you would have added to this list, a book that you would take off this list, anything you want to tell me about this list, let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and leave me a little graph emoji. I think I always do that for my ranking videos, but leave me that in the comments down below as well. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell if you haven't done that already. I will see you in my next video. Bye.